All right, so let's talk about each sign. So again, if you would like your child's chart interpreted, please send me an email, amethystvirgo@gmail.com, and I'll explain how I do children's charts. I do them a little bit differently than adult chart because obviously a child is still experiencing life, like they don't really know who they are yet. But it's also interesting because you can help. A child's chart can sometimes indicate, especially as they're growing up, what the parent's condition is like during those years a child's growing up. So it's very interesting. So Aries, all right. Remember also, your experience is going to be based on your moon sign, from what you view your parent as, usually the mother. Again, I understand that everyone is not the same family situation. So this could also be like the caregiver, right? So the moon Aries child is very active. You typically need to produce like opportunities for them to release their energy. So the moon doesn't really like being in Aries. So it's like you can't contain Aries. You just can't contain that energy. It is so entrepreneurial and independent and wild spirited and just needs to get out. And so sometimes even a child who can be relatively calm or serious has a lot of potential to be active or an athlete. So getting the child involved in sports, if you're noticing that they have a lot of energy that you need to kind of channel, and so it doesn't include like hitting people and like running around crazy, like channel that energy while they're a child to be productive in some type of sports activity or team. They also can be very playful, like they're very playful. So understanding that they will need some degree of you kind of, allowing that a little bit to some extent. Like if you're a very serious person, you know, understand that your child's gonna have different energy than you, and you're gonna need to at least allow them to express that. They might be a little bit independent as well, and so sometimes it might feel like, you know, they don't follow directions or they think they can do everything on their own. So really teaching them the fine line between independence and then also like when is something not right for you to do by yourself, because sometimes they can get in trouble because they assume, oh, I'm just gonna go out and take the train to this place I know I'm supposed to get my parent to take me to, or I'm just gonna go out and do this by myself, or my parent told me to wait till they got home, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So really watching that. That's Aries in general, though. Watch that energy. And they're impulsive in what they do. I feel like Sagittarius moon kids can be impulsive as well, but I think that's more so what they say. I feel like the moon and Aries child is more impulsive by what they do. Okay, so really understanding that and not allowing that to let them become too reliant on instinctually doing the first thing they feel they need to do. Allowing them to think a little bit, kind of borrowing a little bit maybe from like a moon and Gemini type of child, type of energy. As a parent, your moon and Aries parent is usually just somebody that's independent. They view you as independent. I mean, the child would probably view you as independent or someone that was willing or able to show them how to be, you know, focused on what it is they truly want, like a go-getter, going and doing what you need to do, someone who didn't wait for others, someone who was very, experimental, someone who, wanted to explore, like, things like that. And so that's typically what people who have a moon in Aries will view of as their parent, right? Was their parent was able to give them that. They might sometimes be like the parent wasn't necessarily able to show them structure or show them how to be, focused on not just what you want to do, but what you have to do. So just understanding that your moon sign can impact how your child perceives you as a parent raising them. Obviously, you're probably not going to reflect on that until you're way older, right? No kids like analyzing at 8 years old how their parents raising them, right? The moon and Taurus child, so I have a moon and Taurus child. They can tend to be very creative because Venus is related to beauty. So they typically like to make things or create things. Venus is also linked to those things, not just love, but also possessions and beauty and creativity, things of that nature. And so some moon and Taurus children are very creative, more so with, objects or things that are around. Because remember, Taurus is an earth energy, so these kids can be really resourceful because Taurus is resources. They are really good with routines. They're going to remind you of your routines. Remember, the moon is what you inwardly need to feel safe, right? You need it to feel secure, right? So we're not just talking about the moon as our emotions, but our sense of security as a moon and Taurus child will come from being able to feel that you can count on a routine or system. They're the ones that are going to remind you, hey, at this time is when we have breakfast. Why don't we have breakfast yet? Or, hey, you said you was going to take me here. Why didn't you take me here? Hey, every Friday this happens. Why didn't we do that? Like, whatever you tell them is going, they're internalizing it as a part of their routine and their foundation. That's why it's very important for you to build trust by giving them a sense of routine, giving them a sense of stability, having a foundation for these children, right? And if you're finding you're having trouble with them doing certain things, as long as there's a foundation there and a routine, the child will typically get better at it. And that's for any child, I think, but especially with Moon and Taurus children, the boundaries and rules, they tend to be really good at remembering rules, right? They tend to be really good. They might be leaving the tattletale on the other child, because to them, a child breaking the rules is putting them in danger. Because remember, the Moon and Taurus child is about safety and foundation and feeling secure. They do have to sometimes know how to not be obsessed all the time with the way things should go. Sometimes they have to move a little faster. Moon and Taurus children think everything runs in their time. And they have to learn that sometimes they have to keep up the pace with certain things. And so, I think it's a balance. Anything is with teaching them, like with accepting them and understanding they might not move as fast as you do, but also realizing like what in their life do they need to learn to go with the flow with and not be so fixed. There can be some stubbornness with the Moon and Taurus child. They don't want to do something, they don't want to do it. And usually they don't want to do it because it's somehow breaking something they've already figured out they want to do. It's not because they're really trying to be combative. I think that could be more than Moon and Aries child. Moon and Taurus child, it could be because they already planned what they were going to do. Like, no, I don't want to clean up because I planned all day to go in my room and watch TV. Like, it's always like some type of like, they're trying to reason with it. And again, they're children. So it's your job to really teach them the difference between having really good routines and also needing to sometimes break those routines to get something done that is productive. The Moon and Gemini child, this is an air sign. So air and moon is harder because the moon is about feeling and the air is about communication. And so sometimes a Gemini person becomes overly, if you hear that screaming, right now that is a sun in Aries Pisces child screaming right now. Mercury in Aries child, so he has to tell everybody when he's upset. Anyway, Gemini. So Gemini's talkative, right? And they tend to be the kids that want to know why. Well, it's an inner need, and that's what I'm trying to help you understand. Like, whatever someone's moon sign is what they need. The sun can be what they express, but this is what they need. And so if you're trying to bond with this child, don't get annoyed by their questions. And yeah, you might sometimes have to cut it out, right? Like, I'm driving. Can you stop asking me a million questions? But they want to know. They need to understand things. They are at the point of discovery. They're curious. They're trying to figure things out. And it's very important for you to kind of validate that need for that curiosity and not make them feel guilty for questioning things, right? We don't want to do things. We don't want to be, and anything with children is hard because it's balance, right? It's like, I want you to do this thing really well, but I also want you to feel comfortable with who you are. And so the Moon and Gemini child, you don't want to stifle them to the point where they no longer ask questions or they feel they have to, fit this structure of like being don't question things, right? And so if you're a parent who's more like that, don't question things. It is what it is. Your child is not going to feel like they're getting their emotional need, because their emotional need is curiosity, and they need to be exposed to different things, and they need to learn different things. And they might change hobbies here and there. You might need to let them do that until they figure out what they can really do. Understanding though that they need that stimulation, right? And so it's not that they're an unstable person. They're trying to figure things out and allowing them to have those opportunities. Now, the problem is sometimes going to be emotions are not easily filtered through this Moon in Gemini. And so kids are emotional usually regardless of their sign, right? Like, they cry at things that, you're like, why are you crying about that? They get upset over things. Like, it's just a sandwich. Does it matter that I use orange cheese and not white cheese? Does that matter? But to a kid it does, right? So like, kids have all these like irrational outbursts. But the thing you want to understand is because of that, you don't want to teach them not to feel emotion or to feel guilty about having emotions or to assume, oh, this Gemini kid, they're objective, they're so intelligent for their age, they don't care. They don't have any emotions. I don't have to talk to them about how they feel. No, you should still talk to them about how they feel, because the thing is, you don't want children to become so prone to hiding and burying everything and like looking at things in such an objective way that they don't know how to handle emotions when they actually hit. So really teaching them the difference between like, hey, it's okay to feel a certain way. You don't have to be mature all the time. You don't have to do that. But at the same time, they can be good at helping others and talk others from being overly emotional, right? Because they like to talk people through things. And so that can be helpful if they have siblings who are very sensitive, because the Moon Gemini kid, and remember, Gemini is not a harsh sign. Now, they can be a little sarcastic, but they're typically not trying to get at you, right? So they might be good at calming another kid down, talking through things with them, but understanding that you also want to make sure that you are checking in with that kid about their emotions and how they feel about things and how things made them feel, instead of just assuming, oh, they're mature enough, they talked to me about it, it's good. All right. Which is some Moon and Gemini sometimes gets like this rap of like not being emotional, and it's like, it's actually, you're not understanding that them talking is their attempt to try to connect to you on an emotional level. But when you ignore that, then they're going to assume that their feelings don't matter, and they're going to keep on, thinking that there's some type of, wrong with expressing yourself in an emotional way, because you have to be objective all the time, and that's not true. Moon in Cancer. So this is a strong energy, and it really is. The moon rules Cancer. As a child, you don't usually know how to regulate your emotions, and as adults, sometimes we don't know how to regulate our emotions, right? It is unpredictable. It is not something that follows a rule. That's the thing about emotions and the moon. It doesn't follow a rule. Like, your response to things is just this internal instinctual thing, which is why you need to know your child's moon sign. And so the Cancer energy is about nurturing, protecting, providing. And so they're going to need to look at it as they're going to need a parent who can provide that for them, or a parent figure who can provide that for them. Because more than everybody wants love, nurture, and affection. I'm not saying anybody else doesn't want it, but more so than anybody else, they're more likely to have an adverse reaction to it if they don't receive that nurturing as a child. They're going to be looking for it somewhere. You're always going to be looking for it, right? And we can argue that as adults, we're always looking for something we didn't get as a child, right? We can definitely argue that. But with the Moon in Cancer, it's going to be more important because they need to feel protected and safe. And so they're constantly seeking opportunities to feel that way. And if you don't make them feel that way, then there's going to be a whole adverse of feelings towards you. Oh, I didn't get enough. Oh, I didn't get enough love. Or I needed this and I didn't get it. You can give them all the money in the world, but the Moon and Cancer person typically wants a relationship with you, especially with their mother or feminine figures. There's this longing. So if they don't get it, there's going to still be this need to fill that void. Somebody's going to have to fill that void for them because they need that connection. They're angry when they don't feel their safety has been taken into consideration. And again, safety and security can look different to different people. But that's why Cancer gets upset. They feel unsafe. When they feel like something is out of their familiarity or out of their zone of understanding and feeling, when it doesn't feel right, they get upset. And so your job is to teach them the difference between, like, I'm validating your feelings. You're right to feel that way. You're right to express your feelings, because you're not hiding how you feel. You're telling people, like, this bothered me. The opposite of that is them allowing their emotions to control them to the point they don't learn how to regulate them. And you cast it off as, oh, they're just emotional. They're just emotional. They're just emotional. Well, if you're a parent, and again, everything I say is about balance. There's no perfect way to do any of this stuff. But you teaching them when to, yes, you're valid. And also, hey, you got upset over this. This is really what it was. And you guiding them in how to channel and regulate their emotions, right? But typically they're going to have some type of caregiver in their life. That Moon in Cancer is going to attract some type of feminine figure who was that nurturing person, regardless of if it was the mom, dad. If it wasn't the mom, there was somebody who filled in as the mom-like figure. Moon in Leo. So I think more so than the Sun in Leo, the Moon in Leo needs attention. Oh my goodness. The moon is the need, the motivation, attention, acknowledgement, validation. Now you want to watch for that with children, because then it becomes this need to be validated by peers. And Leo is associated with social life and people and others, right? And Leo likes to make others happy. So you do have to watch out for any of that kind of like, because people pleasing for a different reason, right? So that is to fit in. Libra's so-called people pleasing is to not offend anybody and to be balanced. I don't offend anybody. I'm on both sides, right? And so the Leo, teaching your Leo moon child to tap into their talents, right? And what they're good at. And there's many signs that can be known for talents. Anybody can be talented. I'm not assigning it just to one sign, but there are certain tendencies which make it easier to have talent, easier to do it quickly, or easier to express it, or draw attention to yourself for your talents. And so if you find that your child is kind of seeking too much validation from friends, to the extent of maybe losing themselves, it is important to direct their energy to what they are good at so they can get attention for those things. It could be their personality. And so it might be important for them just to be themselves and not worry about being someone else in order to gain some friends or gain like a popularity, type of situation, or whatever the case may be. They also could be very generous to their friends and their siblings and giving, very giving. They don't like to withhold things from people, but at the same time, there's a price for that. They like to feel acknowledged. So, teaching their siblings to be thankful to them, teaching them to not just do things just because they think they're going to get something in return, or get love back, or get attention back, and that was very nice that you did that, but understand that your friend Brandon, he might not do that for you, because sometimes they can become really, that's when you get Leo upset, is when they feel like people don't appreciate them. That is what gets that Leo upset. I did all of this and nobody appreciates me. And then that's when you get kind of the conceited Leo, or the Leo that's all about themselves. It's that opposite end spectrum Leo. When they start feeling nobody's validating me, now they're prideful. So you got to really channel that, leave that in. But I definitely think tapping into the positive of their talent. Moon in Virgo. So Virgo does not work really well with the moon, because the moon is about emotions and Virgo is about analysis, and it's an earth sign. And so it's really not about feeling, it's about what can be explained, what can be broken down, and simply doing things in an efficient way. The moon is not efficient. The moon is about response, and it's needed, right? But so the moon in Virgo child, so the sun in Virgo, like I said before, wants to express that, they want to show this, I'm this. The moon needs to be that, and needs to feel that, and it needs to have that in their life. So your moon in Virgo person is probably actually more organized than your sun in Virgo person. They probably are. The kid is more organized. I'm going to tell you that. If you have a very organized child and they're not a Virgo, it's probably because they have a moon in Virgo, because sun in Virgo will present like they're organized. They might not be in certain aspects of their life, but moon in Virgo actually has that internal, remember the moon, internal drive to be. And so, they routine, kind of like Taurus. But the difference is, like, Virgo needs efficiency. Like, it's not just about having a routine, it's about what makes sense. It's about what works. It's about breaking things down. It is about planning things on time. Virgo child needs you to do things on time. You said you was going to do it this time. They can sometimes, be very, concerned with how to process emotions in a way in which doesn't make them feel overly emotional and like not feeling comfortable with emotions. And you having to kind of teach them how to do that. Whereas with Cancer, it's like they're emotional, like that's their energy, like that is going to come out. With Virgo, it's not an ease of at least expressing it, so you kind of don't know what the moon and Virgo child feels. But moon and Cancer, you can at least try to figure it out. And so it's very important with this moon and Virgo child that you don't assume, because they don't show it, that they don't have feelings. Everybody has feelings, and if you don't, something's wrong with you. Like, there's people out there don't have any feelings, whatever. But I'm saying we all have them, feelings and emotions, but we process them differently. We prioritize them differently, we handle them differently, we express them differently, right? And so it's very important for you, especially with children. Like, children are very emotional. It is your job to figure out what makes your child motivated, what makes your child tick, what is it you want to do to better help them. And so with the moon Virgo child, I think it's more so about you taking the time to understand how they are processing things, because it's not going to always come across like everybody else, right? You might not see it, you might not feel it, right? They might be upset if somebody did. They're not going to hit the person like a Moon and Virgo Aries kid might do. But they're not going to like overly show it like a Moon and Cancer kid, or talk about it like a Moon and Gemini kid, right? Or Moon and Taurus kid, where you can tell they're uncomfortable. So it's very important for you to really get into the mind, because Virgo, in a sense, can already be like kind of an introverted sign. So once you put Moon in Virgo, the kid now sometimes can over-identify with doing things, with tasks, over-identify with those things that they can handle, things that they can do. Like I said before, Sun and Virgo kids can sometimes shut down if they feel they're not successful at something. Well, the difference is the Moon in Virgo can definitely shut down even more. They might cry about mistakes they made because they feel that's a part of them. Do you see the difference here? Is that the Sun and Virgo kid will be upset too, but they might move on a little bit more. The moon is what we internalize, and so the Moon and Virgo child needs you to understand them. And I think that Moon Aquarius, I think, is similar in a way too, where there's not an open expression and they don't talk about it, right? And so I think it's really important, more so, for you to understand your child's probably not going to share things the way other kids may, and that it's your job to really understand how to support them emotionally, as opposed to assuming they don't care, assuming they don't feel anything, assuming that, you know, they're your strong kid. Capricorn has that too. This assumption, my kid is strong, I can say what I want, I can do what I want to them, they're not going to feel anything. And I don't mean like that, like abuse, but I don't mean like that. But I mean, you know, sometimes like parents are like, oh, this is my one strong kid, I don't really have to baby him or her, I don't have to dote on them, they can handle everything on their own. Like, don't do that. And I'll talk about this in Moon and Capricorn as well, to that child, because they need emotional support just like any other child. And it's your job to figure out how they process that. And then once you understand how someone processes something, you can better support them. All right, so thank you for watching this video. If you have not yet checked out the playlist for the astrology, sun sign, and children videos, I'll put the link in this video. And also there is a part 2 to this video where I do the moon in Libra through the moon in Pisces.